Here is my almost solution to codingBat String-2 xyzThere. So I say almost solution because it doesn't quite work. What this is supposed to do is, given some input, it's supposed to determine if there is an appearance of xyz where xyz is not directly preceded by a period. So xyz is okay, but x dot xyz is not okay. So if we look at the examples here, the first case, xyz is true because the letter preceding the x is not a period. In the second case, we have false. There is a period in front of the xyz. And in the third case, we have a true because xyz does not have a period preceding it. There happens to be a period after it, but we don't care. So let's take a look at my almost working solution. I have a for loop, of course. I mean, these are all of these string processing ones have for loops that go through and look at characters in my string. I'm starting at position 0. This time I'm going for x values less than the length of the string minus 2. And I always have to think about this. I'm looking at 3 characters at a time, so I want my last x index to be less than the length minus 2. And let's think about that for a moment. In this first example up here, the length of A, B, C, X, Y, Z is 6. The length is 6. The last index I should look at is less than 6 minus 2. So it should be less than 4. Well, let's see if that makes sense. This is position 0, position 1, position 2, position 3. Position 4 would be this y, but I'm going less than that. So my last index is position 3, which is where this x is. Hopefully that makes sense. Normally, if you want to look at one character at a time, you would just say x less than string.length. But this time I'm looking at 3 characters at a time. I think you can really, whenever you do these, maybe write them down and think about why it must be string.length minus 2. Hopefully that makes sense. So here I am going through and I'm just saying if the substring of my string here from position x to position x plus 3, again, this is 3 characters. So if I have 3 characters that equal, and these are strings, so I'm comparing with dot equals. If I have 3 characters that equal xyz, and this is a not here, and not the previous character, right, x minus 1 to x, is the character that comes before the current x. If that does not equal a period, right, I have this not here, so then I'm going to return true, right? So I'm going to say this again. If I have 3 characters that equal x, y, z, and the previous character is not equal to a period, I'm going to return true. So as soon as I see an x, y, z that's not preceded by a period, I'm returning true. If that never happens, this for loop will end, and I'm going to return false at the end. And if I run this, well, I know you can't see the results, but if I run this, I'm actually getting some out of bounds errors somewhere. Now, out of bounds means that I'm trying to look at characters either before the start of my string or after the end of my string. In this case, I'm actually looking at characters before the start of my string, and the reason is that it's possible that XYZ could occur at the very beginning. Like in this third example right here, xyz is at the very beginning. So when I try to look at the character position x minus 1 right here to x, I'm getting out of bounds. I'm trying to look at something before the position of the string. So I know what you're thinking. Perhaps, no, maybe I don't. Maybe you're not thinking this. If I start my x at position 1, that will get rid of that problem. But then I'm going to miss any xyz at the start. So I'm going to do a little sneaky thing. Now, there's more than one way to fix this. These are called corner cases, by the way. A corner case sometimes is very easy to write a solution, but it doesn't quite work at the start of the string or the end of the string. Those edge cases or corner cases can be a little bit tricky. Sometimes they're called corner cases or edge cases. So all I'm going to do, this is a little bit of a sneaky fix, I'm going to take my string and I'm going to, this is my input string, I'm going to add a blank space to the beginning of it. And I think, if you think about what this is doing, it makes total sense. The reason I'm adding a blank space is so that I don't have to worry about going out of bounds before the beginning of the first character here. And now I'm going to start x at position 1 because I've pushed everything over to the right. So position 1 is now what used to be position 0, and I've added a blank in the beginning. This will prevent me from going from looking at characters before the beginning of my string. Hopefully that makes sense. Give it some thought, and I'm going to run this one more time, and I know you can't see my output, but I have all OKs here, and it's working beautifully. So sometimes, and there's another way to fix this, I could have written a special case for if X, Y, Z is at the beginning, but sometimes the easiest way to fix these corner case issues is to add a blank or some other character. It didn't really even have to be a blank space. I could have added a dash or I don't know, any character that I couldn't have added a dot. That would not have worked, but many characters would work here. Sometimes you want to add a blank space before your input string or after your input string, or both in some cases. So hopefully this makes sense why I did that little sneaky trick, and you've got lots of coding bats to do, so get to work.